Your life flashes before your eyes, and you start seeing connections between things. Mine's a simple story. It started with a beer, that led to a joint, and then it got more serious.
33-year-old Yevgeny is heroin dependent. He's married with a child and has used drugs since he was 18.
I've taken drugs since the early 90s. It was trendy then, and I was young and stupid. We thought it was something special, and I wanted to stand out from the crowd.
Sergei is 37, with a wife and son. He's been heroin addicted for 16 years.
When I was 19, I started taking OxyContin. Then they went up to $120 each instead of $60, and they weren't that easy to get anyway. And then a friend offered me some heroin to try.
Gleb is 24. He lives in the USA with his parents. He's been heroin dependent for 5 years. The Central Asian state of Kyrgyzstan is a mountain country between the Tian Shan and Pamir ranges, with beautifully picturesque scenery of wide valleys and stunning lakes.
A lot of my patients are ordinary, good, well-bred and educated people. But because of different circumstances, they've found themselves in this position. Society, the government and the politicians generally have no idea who the drug addicts are or what it means to have one in the family.
Addicts from all over the world have been coming here for more than 20 years. When they hit rock bottom, they seek help in Kyrgyzstan. When Yevgeny's life was in danger, his family brought him to the clinic. His wife Maria came with him.
We bought a new car, and I really wanted to keep it. I hoped I'd be able to drive myself, but I just couldn't. That's what made me realize that I really needed help.
The whole point is that he's come off his own free will. I didn't want to force him. It would be useless if it hadn't been his decision.
I didn't want to come at first.
He has to really want to do it.
I didn't have enough willpower.
Maria fell in love, had her dream wedding, and then the child she always wanted, with her man at her side. It was a shock to learn that her husband was a drug user. His sister was the first to realize he had a problem.
I wouldn't really believe it. She tried hard to open my eyes. How can you not see it, she asked, but I just refused to believe. I said it couldn't possibly be true. It's only natural. A woman always thinks her man is the best in the world.
Of all the close friends I've ever had, only one is still alive. Some overdosed, others were killed or died in prison. Well, this isn't exactly what you'd call a safe way of life. It's been a long road. I should have come here way back in '93, but the truth is that I was sent to prison several times, and so it wasn't something I could do.
Once the body becomes accustomed to drugs, it needs them all the time. When addicts don't get the heroin they crave, they experience withdrawal symptoms, which often include acute pain. So their patients are not subjected to that torture, the doctors chemically induce a coma.
Who is this doctor?
I am. His name's Ildar. He's 29, and at the moment he's going through his 4th blockade. He's been taking drugs for 5 years. From 2005, he occasionally used marijuana, and then heroin from 2007 to 2009. For the last 6 months, he's been on crystal meth. He alternates between drugs and has taken heroin about once a month in the last 6 months. Now he says he's ready for the pilgrimage.
We give new patients a thorough examination, first of all, and carry out all the necessary tests. After that, we individually select the best treatment method for each of them. For some patients, as few as 3 or 4 sessions are enough, while others may need 5 or 6, or even more. They are comfortable in this state. If their temperature rises or the pulse rate increases because of sympathoadrenal attack, or if the patient's life is in danger, we can bring them out of induced coma at any time. There is an antidote.
Drug addicts don't only endanger themselves, but also the lives of their families and friends. Parents, spouses, and children always suffer as well. Relatives usually go with the patients to the clinic. They take the long road to recovery together.
I think by now you all know that the treatment they go through is quite tough. And it's easier for the patients when it's a family member who looks after them.
When a family first becomes aware of addiction, the first reactions are often confusion, panic, and anger. Doctors describe close relatives of drug users as codependent.
Vladimir, what are you feeling now? What are you thinking about?
My only thought is about how to get rid of it.
What to do, right?
What to do, yeah.
How to help.
Yes, what I can do to help haunts me.
What can be done? What steps to take? The incredible sense of guilt is tearing us apart. It's haunting and depressing. How could it have happened? Why did it happen to my child? What did I overlook? What did I do wrong? That's what happens when a person's mind is consumed with thinking about someone else. Sometimes these thoughts just take up too much space in your brain. So you don't have much time left to develop your mind and personality. Am I right?
The treatment is intended to help not just the patients, but their families as well, to ease their guilt, pain, and fear. Once a drug addict does give up heroin, perseverance is vital. For that, they need to be calm and relaxed.
They are medicated so they can continue their psychotherapy treatment with a clear mind. We'll work with them for at least a week. but that varies for different patients. On average, the psychotherapy takes 7 days. We can predict quite accurately which of our patients is most likely to fight on till the end and which will break. If they don't have the inner strength, willpower, and an intense desire to overcome their addiction, then it is highly likely that one day, maybe much later, after a year or even 10, they'll eventually start taking drugs again.
Gleb was always an adrenaline junkie and an extreme sports enthusiast. He first tried heroin in his search for yet another high.
Gleb, вставай.
Wake up, Gleb.
Gleba,
Time to get up.
проснись.
He liked it and was hooked. That's how he ended up here, in a Kyrgyz clinic.
What first interested me about him was the fact that he'd come from the USA. At that time, Gleb was the youngest of my patients. That made him the most difficult. He was 22 and wanted to see everything there is to see in the world. He's full of illusions, and it's impossible to persuade him of anything. He never listens to anyone.
Gleb's parents brought him to the clinic last year, but he couldn't make it through the treatment. He gave up and went home.
We keep in touch with patients for 6 months after their treatment. We learned that he was taking 5 pills instead of the one he was prescribed. He knew what he was doing, but he's a thrill seeker, and he was desperate for adrenaline. The medicine overdose was far too much for him. He nearly died.
Now Gleb is back at the clinic to complete his treatment, to prove to himself and the doctors that he can do it. Even at the clinic, there are still temptations. After the coma stage, Yevgeny met a patient who invited him to smoke some weed.
We had a huge row. We have no secrets from each other, so one day he just came out and said that he wanted to smoke marijuana.
I told her honestly that they had offered me some to smoke, and I did.
He said I couldn't say no, and then the doctors had to bring me round.
We use what's called the stress-energetic psychotherapy method, which first appeared in 1988. Any mental disorder is linked to the soul, especially if we're talking about drug or alcohol addiction. It's all rooted in our emotional experience.
On the shores of Lake Issyk-Kul, the patients take a 24-hour vow of silence. They live austere lives and meditate in search of inner peace. For this spiritual journey, everyone chooses their own ritual stone. They try to transfer all their fears, pain, and drug-filled past into their stones. The Alabel Pass is about 3,000 meters above sea level and marks the starting point for each patient's final trial, the pilgrimage. 250 kilometers of rugged mountain terrain. They'll have to negotiate it on foot, and they're likely to suffer from heat, cold, sore feet, and lack of oxygen. Gleb attempted the pilgrimage last year, but failed. The rough hike proved too much for him. After 50 kilometers, the young man could go no further.
I hurt my back badly.
Either way, you have to get out of here. Look around and make a decision.
It's not that I didn't want to. I did show up after all.
Show me where it hurts.
Here. I jumped onto a snowboard from about 30 meters and missed. Now every step I take hurts.
Gleb, our first stop is in 2.5 kilometers.
But what's the point? I could go on, but what for?
So you're not going?
I could go on, but it's pointless.
Well, at least you'd get that far.
But I know that I won't get any further.
You really want to give up?
No, but I already know I won't make it. When it came to picking a stone, I chose a huge one. It must have been about 8 kilos, I think. I didn't know then that I'd have to carry it 250 kilometers. That's why it ended up so badly. I have problems with my back. I nearly broke my spine when I was 15. So on the first day, my back hurt like crazy. I even wanted to give up, but decided against it. I walked for 3 days, but as my stone was too heavy, I broke it into pieces to make it lighter and was disqualified. Now, though, I've come again to finish the whole 250 kilometers.
Look, Gleb, a lot of people were against bringing you back to the clinic. You understand? They still don't really want you here. But we've decided to give you a second chance.
Yevgeny has also begun his pilgrimage, which should take about a week. One of the doctors accompanies him, and an ambulance delivers everything he might need: medicines, water, and a tent to sleep in.
This is the second day. I've got 4 or 5 to go. It all depends on how fast I can hike. To be honest, I thought it would be easier, especially the first day. I didn't think 60k a day would be too difficult. I did 20k, and then another 10, and that's when it got really hard. For the last 5 or 10 kilometers, I haven't been walking as much as crawling. While you're walking, your life flashes before your eyes, and you start seeing connections between things. I think about my future, about everything, really. There's no one to talk to, so sometimes I hum tunes to myself.
I'm preparing a surprise for my dear husband. I want to show him how much I love him. Of course, he already knows, but I want him to read my banner from the mountain so he can see for himself. It's tough up there, and I want at least to make his last 2 kilometers a little easier, so he'll hurry, knowing I'm waiting for him. We miss each other so much.
Maria stood by her husband at every stage of the treatment. They cried, argued, and made up together, hoping he'd recover.
Is he a strong man?
Probably, if he can do it.
He hasn't yet. He's only been walking for 3 days.
He can do it.
You're confident, right?
I have no doubt at all. I know he can make it to the end.
What will you do if he started taking drugs again?
Again? No, he won't. I'm sure. I don't even want to think about it.
What if?
Well, I'd stand by him to the end. If he breaks, we'll try to cure him again.
Well done. What a woman.
Not everyone can cope with the test of the pilgrimage. Some patients need to face emotional rather than physical trials.
I'm not well enough to go on the pilgrimage. I'd like to, but I know I'm just not strong enough to get through it. So if you think about it, shock therapy seems to be quite a reasonable alternative.
Doctors call this stress-energetic psychotherapy. But in layman's terms, it's shock therapy.
He came to us with serious withdrawal symptoms and went through 6 blockades.
Are you sure in your own mind that you'd give up?
100%.
Why do you think so many people say that?
I don't know.
You have some experience of the criminal world, right?
Sure, I know it inside out.
Many say they're 100% sure, and the next thing they're shooting up again.
I don't know about them, but I can give you my word. I'm a man, and I always keep my promises. That's how I was brought up.
The doctors have decided that after his induced coma and therapy sessions, Sergei should now be given shock therapy.
At first, he couldn't make up his mind. He wanted to go on the pilgrimage. He said, "I want to carry this stone with my past and my pain. I can't do it." Sergei has survived severe trials before. He was in solitary confinement in prison, and I'm sure he can pass the test. The big question, though, is how important it is to him. So I think that for him, stress-energetic psychotherapy is the best option.
The procedure takes half an hour. The doctors think of it as a psychological reboot. Bright lights, loud shouting, and aggressive clapping help clear and reprogram the patient's mind. The process induces a cathartic state.
It's a little like hypnosis. We repeat, "You're strong, you're powerful, you can do it." There's no need for drugs in your life anymore. And these subliminal thoughts become imprinted in their minds. The next day, these ideas get stuck in their heads, though they don't remember the actual words we say.
Gleb sets out on his pilgrimage again. This time he's chosen a smaller stone, which will be physically easier for him, but psychologically much harder. Loving parents and a good career are waiting for him at home, and he's promised to come back cured.
I wanted him to remember the exact moment that he finished his journey. I wanted to make it special. I know it was quite a demanding experience for him, and I'm so proud of him for proving he was able to do it.
A cleansing summer rain shower began just as Yevgeny completed his week-long pilgrimage. The treatment was over. The patients rid themselves of their negative past by discarding their stones and symbolically burning their troubles on the sacred Tashtarata mountain.
The most important thing is that I've saved my marriage. All this is thanks to my wife, who's waited 16 years for me.
After the treatment, Sergei kept in touch with the clinic for a month. He claimed to have stopped taking drugs. Now he's not answering his phone, and no one knows where he is.
I've been going to university for 5 years and still have no degree, but now I am going to graduate.
Gleb finished his pilgrimage and returned to the USA. He doesn't take drugs and has taken up extreme sports again. He's convinced he will never return to abusing drugs again.
I flew a paraglider yesterday, and I'm thinking of buying one. The Urals where I live are perfect for it.
Yevgeny and Maria have returned to their hometown and changed their social circle. Yevgeny has found a new job now and has taken no drugs for 6 months. He wants to give up smoking and hopes for a second child.